talking about the distributional effects of trade. So I actually talk about that in the book. I talk about the elephant curve of inequality. So it seems you were saying that, or maybe I should just let you say. So do you want to talk a little bit more about the distributional impacts of opening up trade, or particularly maybe the China shock? And I can hold off on this, but these tariffs are going to increase prices quite a bit, right? And that's going to have an impact on cost of living, etc. So it's not, is it clear that these tariffs will actually help the people who are, say, being displaced out of their jobs? And that's a long question. Maybe you can take it in parts. So maybe start with the inequality, the elephant curve or something.
Yes, I'll start with the inequality, and then I'll address the prices.
Okay.
So from trade theory, what we know is that trade is overall very good for a country, but it generates winners and losers. Now, in the context of the China shock and the United States, what we know is that trade with China is going to be good for high-skilled people in the US, because what is going to happen is the US will simply import labor-intensive products from China, and it will export high-skilled labor-intensive products to China. And so that's going to generate a lot of jobs for high-skilled people, but low-skilled people will lose their jobs. We know this from trade theory, and that is exactly what happened in the US. Unfortunately, the overall gains from trade were not redistributed very effectively. Now, with regard to the tariffs, you're absolutely right. In fact, there's research coming out of the Peterson Institute of International Economics in Washington, D.C., that says that these tariffs are going to be tremendously regressive. So the burden is going to be mainly on middle to low income households, who will now pay a much higher price. Because let's face it, who imports cheaper products from China? It's typically your middle to lower income households, and they're going to be penalized by the tariff disproportionately. So this is a concern for the US going forward.
No, I know that you may not have a good answer to this, but then why are so many people supportive, or why is this? Is it more to do with that? Is it because it's packaged with other political issues, or is it just misunderstanding of the effect? Or
I think some of it is misunderstanding, but I think in trade we always face this challenge, which is that the losses seem to be very concentrated. So you get concentrated losses in industries and in regions. And so it is very obvious, and it can be leveraged by politicians to generate this discourse, anti-trade discourse. The gains seem to be more spread out across consumers. Often it's low and middle income consumers that cannot organize themselves very well and that are disenfranchised. And that leads to these perverse political outcomes. It's a tough problem to solve.